Hello and welcome to Seesar Gear. Today we are going to go through some features of the Enner. This is a very complex, I say it's complex, maybe it's not. I feel like it's an instrument that needs to be explained in depth and thought about in lots of different terms, as well as there's plenty of tips and tricks that go along with it. It is something that you need to spend some time with. This is definitely not a push the button sort of instrument. It is a device that needs practice. So, and I definitely still need practice with it, even though I've probably spent a good 200 plus hours with it. And I'm working with some of my students, in particular Andrew Wilson and Evan Deonda, who both have done some great work with it and actually have taught me a few tricks with it that I'll pass on here over the course of multiple videos. I want to make that clear. Today I'm just going to show a few different things that I like to do with it that you may not have thought of. Maybe talk about the features a little bit. There's plenty of really good videos on YouTube already about the Enner. There's one particular series of tutorials that I think is excellent. Eric somebody, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to look up his name. I'll post that in the link, and I'll add that to the image here. But that guy was really good, and this is an instrument that is semi-unique. I mean, it's unique in that you have touch capacitance is your friend. Like, everything is tactile, so you are basically playing Twister with your fingers to make the device operate, and you have lots of ways, therefore, to perform with it. It is very performative. The gist of it is the middle section is inputs, and the outer section is outputs. And you have to make a connection between those two to get a sound out of it. So in general, these are filters and a delay unit, and everything else. There's tones over here, and there's pulses over here. There's a contact pickup that's underneath the lid, underneath the plate here, and there's a delay unit, and its controls are here, these four. And you also have an external input if you want to add, I don't know, guitar or a guitar pedal or another device, etc. You can run it through, mix it in, and affect it with the Enner. So there's still a couple of mysteries for me in terms of what can be done with it, but I'm going to learn those and tell you about them later. For now, let's stick with the stuff that I do regularly so that we can get started with a nice review of this, a tutorial or so of this. And I love it. Let's start with that. Well done, Vlad. Soma Labs typically does a really great job. I think this one in particular is top notch. I do find it difficult. I won't lie, I don't think it's ergonomically fantastic. I think it's ergonomically challenging. But I think that in itself makes you perform in a certain way, which I do appreciate. And keeping with Soma Labs' typical MO, it is a device to explore, not a device to push a button and expect it to do something that every other synth on the planet does. So they've done a good job with that. Okay, so let's making some sounds. You have to touch some plates. This is the left channel, this is the right channel, and tones are over here. So just basic. Pulses are over here. You have clock divided pulses, and then you have these interesting pulses that are triplets and other things to mix in, and they're also not uniform. They're weighted, so there's a pause at the beginning of them, which is pretty fun still, but you still have to give them something to pulse. So here's some sound, nothing's happening. Let's So pretty good. The piezo pickup is this long weird blob here. So again, you still have to touch something, and then you can activate the pickup. You can actually already hear my voice through it. And you've got a rubber band that goes across here and a spring. You have the volume for it here. You can add delay. And mixing all of this together is, of course, the goal. Well, I say the goal. It doesn't have to be the goal. It can be whatever you want. But there's a complexity that you can ramp up with mixing it all together. Things that I was talking about on my Instagram channel, Seesar Gear, earlier today, was a couple of tips that I think are useful, especially if you're new to this and you're trying to figure out things like, well, how do I turn the volume down? You obviously can do things like have a pedal to run in the middle and have an expression of the volume, etc. But it's in stereo. There's no options. You are in stereo, and that is because you have necessarily stereo options. So if you want a pedal, you have to get a stereo expression pedal or volume pedal, which exists. That's fine, but you wouldn't have the same option because of a TRS cable unless you merge these two, something like that. There's ways around it, but it's a little more tricky than just plug and play. So I like to think about the things that aren't commonly used or that I haven't seen used with the performances of these Enners. So let's say I'm making some sounds, and you have 5 oscillators that you can add in. And then you have this one down here that's called the pitch modulator. It's because you have modulation at the top. And what's fun is if you turn the pitch modulation all the way down to its lowest value, it ceases to make enough noise. There's a little clicking probably in the background, but it ceases to make noise such that you can actually use that as a emergency volume pedal, or you can use it as a way to extract the pitch tones out of it, the pitched tones out of it, while still doing other stuff, because the rhythm things continue to play. The piezo pickup continues to play. The delay unit continues to play. Put in. So it can be a nice little additive for mixing the pitched elements in and out. Another thing is that these pots are contact points, and that makes sense. I mean, they're wired in, but they're purposefully metal instead of plastic so that you can actually play them. It makes it easy if you're trying to do some staccato work or something like that. You might notice too, I have a sponge over here. The sponge is wet, and it wet fingers make better contact, and of course, pressing into the device makes different contacts because you have it changes the amount of surface area touching the contact plates, and it also just it spreads your finger out, basically, is what it does, but it makes it less pinpointed, because here you have control, you have that control, but if you spread it out, you can get some different sounds. And if you're using two pads to get like modulation, it gives you some variety, some expression. Another thing that I like is this delay unit is excellent. So the delay unit, I've already done this a little bit. The delay unit is just instant feedback, self-oscillation if you want it to be. So you have the delay in and the delay out, and you can basically play them all together and immediately get feedback. And it also stops immediately, which I also appreciate, because that gives you dynamic possibilities or shock value to people's ears, that kind of thing. I'm not really sure how to incorporate certain things without it becoming overly noisy. So the feedback is controllable, though. Typically you have the option to remove your hand, but it also has the option to just turn the feedback all the way down. And you can more slowly remove it from the mix. Although it is a bit tricky, I won't lie. It's something that I find quite interesting. This button is called the bizarre button, but it's just the delay modulation. So if you have something rumbly sounding, you can introduce overlaid modulation, which ends up being a bit chaotic, but not completely. Another thing that's something to note is that the buttons are wired such that clockwise reduces the time. So when they're all the way, to the right, you have the longest delay times, and that's useful if you're like plucking something. And if they're really high, of course, you can have really buzzy sounds. Oh. You can basically get a slap back. So that's something to keep in mind, is that these are pitched as well. Low is counterclockwise or anti-clockwise, but here low is clockwise. So you just have to keep your orientation wits about you while you're playing. Gosh, there's so many other tips that I could talk about. Things to keep consistency, ways of performing with it, so that you have certain sonic elements that you want to include. It doesn't have to be complete chaos. It can be complete chaos. It can be controlled chaos. It can be very melodic or ambient. I also do like to run it through a stereo reverb unit or echo unit, even on top of the delay that they have. And my go-to at the moment is the Death by Audio Dream Station, but there's plenty of, there's also the Mesmerizer is another good one, the Pedal Partners and Moneco Labs Pedal Partners is a good one. There's the Afterneath is a decent one. There's lots. I mean, I don't have a Strymon Night Sky, but I think that's one that I probably need to pick up eventually. There's a Microcosm. There's all kinds of different ones that you could mix with this, and you could even do it forwards and backwards. You could have it looped through the external input, or you could have it just go straight through, etc. Well, let me play a second. I'm going to just kind of make a little collage here and try and incorporate some of the things I talked about, but you get the idea. What I want you to think about at this point is, do you have one, and how do you use it, or are you going to get one? And if you are going to get one, let me know if there's anything that you want to find out about before you pick it up. They are a wee bit expensive. I think I paid about $700 for this one, $700 US, that is. But it has been mega worth it. I absolutely love it. So let's have a little jam and see where it goes. There you have it. An example of the Soma Labs Enner. If you have any questions, then let me know. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. This is even more important. And definitely, start a conversation if you have tips to share, that kind of thing. I can always use more help. I am literally still learning all of these instruments. Every day I learn something new. So thank you for watching. You can feel free to get previews of a lot of these things at my IG channel. On Instagram, I'm Seesar_music or Seesar_gear. And that's it. You can also visit SeesarMusic.com/gear to see these videos or find out more about my compositions or other work. And I appreciate you watching. See you in the next video. Boom.